Hey there, I'm Andrew Chang. Welcome to About That. It is 2023, and over the last, sort of week or so, we've been trying to take the opportunity to look at very specific pieces of life and trying to figure out, well, what does the rest of the year hold? And so, we've done shows on AI in 2023, sports in 2023, and Stacy Lee Kong is joining me here because we're going to talk about pop culture.
Your favorite topic?
Yeah,
that you
already know
so much about.
Yeah. Stacy Lee Kong, of course, who is a writer and editor, the creator of the Friday Things pop culture newsletter, which is an excellent read, I should tell you. But yes, I was very upfront with my team, and I told them, look, guys, I know some things about a lot of things, but I know almost nothing. I know almost nothing about pop. I don't keep up with like the latest music, TV shows, movies, that sort of thing.
This is going to be great.
And you know what my team did? They doubled down and they said, so you know nothing. So here's what we're going to do. You're going to continue knowing nothing. We're not going to prep you at all for this segment. But Stacy Lee Kong is going, like, what are we doing?
We're going to play a game. Okay. The game is how much can Andrew figure out based on these, like, extremely, I really want you to see.
Yeah, these are impressive, by the way.
They are.
Like pop culture ransom notes.
Oh, that's not what I was thinking. I was thinking like 1996 scrapbook, but sure. Yeah. That's maybe a more accurate description.
Well, yeah,
so
I feel a little bit hostage right now. Yeah, but go ahead.
But in a fun way.
Yeah, of course.
So what we're going to do is Andrew's going to choose a card, and he's going to read what's on the back of the card. He's going to have you'll have a little bit of insight into what this is about. And each one represents a trend that we think is important to pay attention to in the coming year. Okay. And maybe it'll be a trend that we like and we're into. Maybe it'll be a trend that we think is super problematic. You have to guess.
But okay. And so am I guessing if it like has staying power or just whether this is a good thing?
No, you're just guessing whether it's, you're guessing if it's a good thing or not.
Wow. Okay.
So we can start at any time.
So here, if I hold this, I'll try not to read the back here. I'm just focusing on the image. I'm not even reading the back. Okay, but it's got lots of cool, like Tom Cruise, Titanic, Mickey Mouse. Okay. Oh. Nostalgia in TV movies. So
what do you think? Like, do you think that's good? Do you think that's bad? What do you think?
Well, of course it's good because what you think of as nostalgia, I think of as current. And so this is very much
like a good point.
This is very much my wheelhouse. Of course it's good.
Yeah, okay. Yeah. That's not where I thought we were going with this, but I actually agree with you that nostalgia can be a good thing. So in 2023, the Barbie movie is coming out.
Okay, so this I know, yeah.
You did?
Yeah, Margot Robbie, right? And I've seen the little promotional materials.
He's doing better.
No, I've seen that. I'm not an idiot, right?
I know you're not an idiot. I just don't know what you do with your time.
Fair, okay.
What are you reading, Andrew?
Okay, so yes, Barbie. But you're right, tapping into a sense of nostalgia.
Right. And The Little Mermaid, the live action episode, or the movie is coming out, right?
Yes.
Wish I could be.
Yes.
So we're seeing these big pop culture moments that are really dependent on IP, like intellectual property, that actually came out decades ago.
Right. And at a time that was less sensitive to the things that we ought to be more sensitive to today.
Absolutely.
Like, yes.
So I think really, I mean, you know me, I like to have like the nuance of everything. I think nostalgia is really interesting because of how much we're relying on it recently. Mm-hmm. So nostalgia has always been a thing we should acknowledge. There's this hip new movie that I don't know if you've seen. It's called Grease. It came out in the 70s.
Yes.
That was just being me.
It feels like yesterday, Stacey.
Doesn't it? But the key thing about Grease is that it was nostalgic for a time period, the 50s, but also a life period, right, of adolescence. And what we're seeing now is that, so like the point there is just to say we've been relying on nostalgia for a long time. But right now, the trend cycle is speeding up. So we are looking at things that are more and more recent and feeling nostalgic for them.
Well, and you raised Little Mermaid. I mean, Ariel reimagined as a black mermaid.
Yeah. So there's this really interesting thing where we are seeing just like increased diversity, but also sometimes that doesn't always work super well. So I don't know if you remember a few years ago, there was a live action Aladdin that came out. And Aladdin, if you haven't seen it recently, is not like the most feminist of stories.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
So the attempt in that live action movie was to make it feel a bit more current. And I think it had kind of middling success. I think The Little Mermaid is going to be a far better example of how you can update nostalgia, how you can kind of bring nostalgia into the future so that it still feels like it's current, but you still get that comfort of the past.
So nostalgia good when done right.
Yes.
Okay.
Okay.
I get the game.
You get the game. You're doing very well. Okay, next one.
Wow. Okay, so some controversial figures. Okay, and it says, "Eat the rich" on TV. Wow.
Yes. So what do you think? Good, bad, confusing?
Yeah, I mean, so without giving you too long-winded of an answer,
No,
I mean,
I want the long-winded. I'm here for it.
I mean, so I get the need for people to feel like they need a sort of democratization of the space, right?
Yes.
Of the landscape, and like sort of the great equalizer, especially in these times, right? Economically, where it's just tough,
yes.
right? And it's hard to make ends meet.
Yes.
That I don't take that so far as to say, well, we should just shoot napalm at everyone who has over $1 million net worth. But you tell me, what am I looking for here?
So I think this is a trend that can go either way.
Yeah.
It's when we're talking about, for example, The White Lotus or Succession, I think is a good example where we're seeing...
I don't know any of those shows, by the way.
Okay, I have been thinking about how we represent wealthy people on TV, and for a long time it was aspirational, right?
Yeah.
And instead what we're seeing now is that those rich people are getting their comeuppance in some ways.
Here they are, the Rebel Alliance.
And so to your point, there's this like class consciousness, this idea that we're going to use pop culture to think a little bit more deeply about wealth and where we position wealthy people and whether we think of them as, unambiguously good or whether we're aspiring to be like them. And I think this probably ties into the whole conversation about billionaires in general.
I've seen a lot of guys who make all this money and they just start acting different.
But we are still just watching TV. So unless that kind of conversation or thinking actually infuses the way that we move through the world and how we vote and how we whatever, that's just entertainment. That's not actually like class solidarity. So that's why I think it can go either way.
Okay, you're making me work here, Stacy. So, okay, one more before we go to a commercial break, right?
Yeah.
I'm not even sure what I'm supposed to make of this. I don't recognize any of those people. Anyways. The rise of virtual influencers. Okay, so this is why I don't recognize
I'm sorry.
any
For
of those
one
people.
moment, though, I don't recognize any of those people. One of them is Kim Kardashian. What?
Yeah, like in the small part of the overall photo. Fine. Just not that I may not have recognized her.
I was
even if I saw her.
that was a nice try, but you were not going to recognize her anyways. Okay.
But yes, but this is.
We're not even talking about Kim Kardashian.
Okay.
We're talking about an even wilder idea of an influencer. So have you heard of, I know the answer, but I'm going to ask it anyways. Have you heard of Lil Michaela or Shudu Graham?
Absolutely not.
Yeah, right. Okay, so those are not real people.
Okay.
When we say virtual influencers, what we mean is like AI-generated entities. So
with a look, a persona,
with a
and
persona.
everything.
So it's like Lil Michaela is a Brazilian-American 19-year-old who has done brand deals with like luxury fashion houses. She was invented by two people in 2016, I believe, and it started as an Instagram account. She now has 3.1 million followers. She's an influencer, but she's not real. And
but
then,
are these people virtual influencers, or
well,
are
some
they?
of these people are just real. No, these are just influencers.
Okay.
But
It's like,
listen,
wow, they
no,
make
you
them look
can't.
really realistic. This one looks just like Kim Kardashian.
But, okay, so the other one... I haven't told Julie that you're making fun of her cards.
No, they're great. They're lovely.
But the other one, Shudu Graham, is a Black influencer who is billed as the world's first virtual supermodel. And she was created by a white photographer, and he based her on like a holiday Barbie or some kind of Barbie. And The problem here, though, and that's why I realize I did not actually tell you if this was good or bad, but in case it wasn't clear, very bad.
No, yeah, because let me jump in, because it sounds shocking and weird and probably problematic, but I also just think of, I mean, like in video games, like Mario, right? Do I think that that's a problem if he developed a personality and started doing funny things?
Okay, but this is a labor issue. This is a labor issue. This is why. So I know you haven't seen it. I'm going to tell the people anyways. In December, this Twitter thread went viral, and it was this idea. The idea was it was a fashion show in some unnamed African country, which was like your first clue that something is wrong. And it was a bunch of these senior citizens, and they were going down the runway, and it was positioned as, look how exciting this is. This is so great. This is such great representation. But those models were generated by AI. It wasn't real people. So it wasn't real people getting booked or paid or recognized.
Right.
And this is a similar issue where when you see these fashion models or these influencers or whatever, when they're computer generated, someone's getting paid, but it's often the white people who are behind developing them, which means that you can have representation or the appearance of representation, but real racialized people, and this goes much further, real disabled people, real LGBTQ plus people, real, any kind of marginalized group, you can have the appearance of representing them and including them without actually paying them.
I see.
And then it's the same. And the other thing too is this kind of sense of ideas, right? So who's in the room? If the same people are in the room, but it just looks like it's slightly different, then you're not getting real representation or diversity or inclusion. So this is like a thumbs down trend for me.
Fascinating. We're going to keep playing this game after the break. Hey, welcome back to About That and our oddly fascinating look ahead at 2023 and pop culture and the trends that
you should be paying more attention to.
I should be paying more attention to. So Stacy Lee Kong joining us here. So, okay, I've got another card here, some gifts, some clothes on it. Social justice and brand awareness, making informed purchases. So
yes.
As far as good trend, bad trend goes, so
what do you think?
Clearly more awareness, more information is a good thing. I'm not convinced that it's feasible for everyone to do the kind of research required to get at the truth in every case.
We're very aligned.
That's the hard part, right?
We're aligned. So I think this is one of those trends that could go either way. And I think, anytime we talk about Gen Z in particular, there's, all of the marketing sort of research on this generation in particular talks about the importance of values. So values in the companies that they support, in sort of the decisions that they're making. The problem is that there's a disconnect between, I think, and this is all people, what people say they want, which is to make sure that you're, shopping ethically and whatever, and what they actually do. So some of that is about not necessarily being able to do the research to figure out if a store is ethical or not.
Sure. Yeah.
But sometimes we're talking about a store like Shein, which there has been tons of reporting on the labor abuses that are happening in this company. And that's how, if you don't know anything about fast fashion, labor abuses is how you get a $10 dress. You do that by underpaying your workers, by cheaping out on materials. There's all of these things. And the problem, though, is that there's this conflicting discourse, especially happening sometimes on Twitter, where people will talk about, they'll kind of use the language of social justice in order to excuse a decision that is actually kind of awful. So they'll say,
so what do you mean? Yeah.
So to your point, that, this is the clothing that's accessible to me, or this is the clothing that, is able to fit me. And all of that is true, that there are real shortages of plus size clothing, of clothing that is accessible in terms of price for people. And especially as we go into a recession, those things are top of mind. But sometimes I think what ends up happening is we use the sort of language of social justice to excuse our own decisions, because Shein is not anyone's only option. It's not, right? And so that's where you get this conflict between talking about a thing that's really good, which is being aware of who's making your clothing and how it's being made. But instead of kind of sticking with that thought process and saying, oh, maybe I shouldn't shop at this place.
Right.
You're instead being like, but here's this other, it's a complicated thing. And so we end up kind of excusing our own behavior.
Well, so that's an interesting point, but it is complicated too, because like here I am putting my journalist hat on, right? Because I'm thinking that when companies make claims about all of the great things that they're doing, as a journalist, it can be exceptionally hard to corroborate or confirm any of them.
Yes.
Right? And so trying to navigate that landscape, so never mind trying to do your own research, but trying to do it in an environment where good information is hard to come by. Boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
What is this? Oh, no, I know this person.
Which one?
Taylor Swift.
If you didn't know who Taylor Swift was, I was going to be so upset at you.
Yeah, I don't recognize all of them, but the return of live music and big tours.
Yeah, what do you think, good or bad?
So good. I think overwhelmingly good. No, you're shaking your head. No, don't say good. So here was my reasoning, and then you can beat me up after, okay? So I think it's good because it's an industry that doesn't only employ the musicians who are performing, but huge numbers of people. And I just feel for any group of people who during the pandemic have suffered greatly, right? And so the return of live music sounds like a good thing to me, but also for those musicians, I mean, my understanding has always been this is kind of how they do make their money. And so, okay, I'm just gonna stop talking.
No, you're not. Your thought process is perfectly logical.
Okay.
I just think you're
It's just wrong. Yeah. Okay, tell me why.
Okay, so here's why. Multiple things. So first of all, you would think that, next year, for example, Beyonce's going on tour, Janet Jackson's going on tour, rumor/wishful thinking has it that Rihanna might be going on tour. So you would think people would be very excited. People cannot afford to go see these shows. And so the reason Taylor Swift is on here is because the return of live music means the return of Ticketmaster's monopoly. So this is the big, did you hear about when everyone tried to buy Taylor Swift?
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Just trying to say it in a gentle way.
I don't know what song she sings.
That's fine. That's fine. We're going to work on that.
Yeah.
Taylor Swift is speaking out after Ticketmaster canceled a ticket sales schedule for the general public for all those fans who are hoping to get their tickets to that highly anticipated tour.
Many Taylor Swift fans are furious. Ticketmaster facing a customer backlash tonight. The company says Taylor Swift's new tour has created an unprecedented demand for tickets.
If you managed to score Taylor Swift tickets this week, consider yourself among the lucky ones. The online ticketing giant Ticketmaster now under fire after hordes of Swift fans waited hours online only to find sky-high prices and the website crashing.
The tickets you have selected have been released. The line has stopped moving. The website fully crashed. I waited in line for like 6 hours.
The problem there was that, so first of all, there were, I think, 14 million people trying to buy pre-sale tickets, and 2.4 million tickets were actually sold. And then after that, Ticketmaster actually just didn't sell any more regular tickets. So that meant that if you didn't have access to pre-sale, you actually couldn't see the show at all. So there's that part where Ticketmaster's a monopoly. The reason for that is because Ticketmaster and Live Nation merged in 2010. And so there's actually an antitrust investigation being opened against Ticketmaster now, because it means that every ticket sale, every kind of concert that happens through Ticketmaster.
Okay, but I mean, this sounds like a problem with ticket sales and resale, not with the return of live music.
It's getting worse.
Okay.
So
it's a hot commodity, I get it.
A hot commodity, but also increasingly inaccessible. So the other part of Ticketmaster being a monopoly is that they're starting to do this thing called dynamic pricing, which you would recognize if you've ever tried to buy an airline ticket.
Oh, okay, yeah.
So
I was going to say take an Uber.
Or take an Uber.
Yeah.
Yes, that's an even better example. So when there's higher demand, prices go up. Is that good for fans of live music who maybe have limited funds, especially in the year 2023? Probably not.
Yeah.
Is that good for artists? Well, not necessarily, because is that money even going back to them? And to your point about whether people, like if touring is how people make money, the rapper Cadence Weapon wrote a really great op-ed in Toronto Life recently about how the fact that it's so hard to make money touring as a mid-sized artist. So if you're not a Beyonce, if you're not a Taylor Swift, if you're not a Janet Jackson, can you actually make a living? And he talked about running a very bare bones tour and still losing money. And so there's all of these factors in place that kind of disenfranchise artists as well. So you would think the return of live music would be good for everyone, but I don't think that's the case.
Interesting. Okay. We've got like a minute, maybe a minute and a half. We've got to power through this last one. The women ruling pop punk. I don't know what pop punk sounds like.
Oh my God. Do you remember Avril Lavigne?
Oh, sure. Yeah, okay.
There you go.
Yeah. Oh, but that's great that women are ruling it.
I agree. This is an easy one.
Done. Okay. That was a soft landing, right?
It really was. We should have started with that one. We are really excited about Olivia Rodrigo Olivia Rodrigo kind of references the Avril Lavigne and the Hayley Williams of Paramore, who also were referencing like the pop punk women of the early 90s. And so we just think the more shouty women are, the better.
I cannot argue with that. Stacy Lee Kong, this has been a journey of epic proportions that I did not have any idea what it would be like when I embarked on it. But
thank you for having me.
It's wonderful. Thank you.
Thank you for putting up with us.
We're going to be back. We're going to be back with your picks for 2023. If you want to know what goes on in this brain for what's the year coming up,
you probably don't.
Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Hey, welcome back. I am here with my friend Stacy Lee Kong. We've been talking about pop culture and the year to come. And even though my head is spinning right now,
all of this new information that we forced into it,
there's a little bit more room for whatever your anything you want. Top picks 2023. What should I and everyone else be consuming?
So I think the backstory of this pick, or these picks, because it's two, is that I don't know if you've seen the jokes online, but I feel like everyone's like, don't say anything about 2023. No hopes, don't jinx it. Just like start the year and hope for the best.
Well, that's a pessimistic way of going about it, but go ahead.
But I think, if you went into 2020 being like, this is going to be my year, and then you thought
Fair enough.
I personally, that's the tactic that I am taking, and I'm a little bit in my feelings about everything right now. So I'm suggesting 2 albums that will just meet you where you are if you're also in your feelings. So one is SZA's SOS, which came out in December. It's very good. It's like genre bending and just like it's there for you. Whatever you're feeling, it's there for you. And then the other one is a rapper named Stormzy, who's from the UK, and he just put out his 3rd album in November, and it's also very good. And I feel like I just want music that is going to be kind of like a warm hug, and that's what Stormzy feels like for me. Even though it's like rap and it's very there's some flexing on this, but it's very good.
Thank you for joining us here on About That and this wonderfully informative journey with Stacy Lee Kong.
Thank you for having me.
Have a great day, guys.